The 78 Gates, a tarot card fantasy novel. What if every tarot card was a gate? Aria is a young artist on the edge of giving up. Her creative spark faded, her heart heavy with grief. But when she inherits her grandmother's mysterious tarot deck, everything changes. One card, the Fool, opens a portal to a realm beyond imagination. Guided by a cryptic fox spirit named Vesper, Aria must pass through 78 trials, each one shaped by a card in the tarot: wands of fire, cups of emotion, swords of shadow, pentacles of stone, and the ancient powers of the Major Arcana. Every gate holds a lesson. Every realm awakens a part of her soul. From the forge of inspiration to the temple of the world, Aria must face her fears, unlock her truth, and discover the artist and woman she was meant to become. This is the 78 Gates, a tarot fantasy, a soul's journey, a story of grief, healing, and transformation. Prologue: The Locked Door. The rain hit the window like tiny fingers drumming for attention. Aria sat hunched at her tiny kitchen table, a half-finished canvas before her. The colors had turned muddy hours ago, but she kept pushing the brush as if trying to uncover something buried beneath the paint. Nothing came. Nothing ever did anymore. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Mia, her old roommate. "You okay? Been MIA since the gallery thing. Wanna talk?" Aria turned it face down. She didn't want to explain. Not about the canceled exhibit, not about the growing pile of unopened paints, or the creeping feeling that her spark had died with Grandma. The last time she'd seen her, Grandma had been sipping mint tea, the tarot deck between them like an unspoken promise. "One day," she had said, placing the Fool card down, "you'll start again, but it won't begin how you expect." Aria had smiled politely. She hadn't believed in cards, not really, only in art, and even that had abandoned her. The apartment felt too sterile: cold tile floors, white walls, and the stale scent of linseed oil that had lingered long after her last real painting. She needed air, escape. She grabbed her coat and keys and stepped into the street where the city roared with life she couldn't feel a part of. Neon signs blinked above cafes she used to love. Buskers played songs she no longer recognized. Even the rain seemed to wash around her, like she wasn't there. By nightfall, she stood outside Grandma's cottage. The key still worked. She hadn't sold it. Couldn't. Inside, the scent of rosewood and dried sage still clung to the curtains. Dusty books lined the shelves, and the tarot deck sat on the table, untouched, waiting. She picked it up. The cards felt warm. There was a note next to the cards. The cards do not predict the future. They reflect the soul. "Grandma." There was a whisper in her mind, like a voice brushing the edges of memory. "Draw." Her hand hovered. Then she pulled the first card, the Fool. A breeze stirred, though no windows were open. The lights flickered, and in that moment, everything changed. Chapter 1. The Fool. Rain fell like soft static against the cafe window, streaking down the glass in silver threads. Aria sat alone at a corner table, her sketchbook closed, untouched. A half-drunk latte cooled beside it, its leaf-shaped foam pattern already dissolving. She stared out at the gray streets of the city, where umbrellas bobbed past like slow-moving petals. Her pencil hadn't moved in days. Not since the funeral. Not since Grandma. A woman with fire in her fingers and stories in her bones. The one person who never asked her to be realistic. Art is a conversation with the soul, Grandma used to say, laying cards on the table like pieces of a puzzle. Aria had watched her shuffle that worn tarot deck 1,000 times. The smell of lavender and old ink still clung to those memories. Now the silence inside her was deafening. A bell jingled above the cafe door, but Aria barely noticed. She opened her bag and pulled out the box. It was smaller than she remembered. Grandma's deck, tied with a faded silk ribbon. A note was tucked beneath it in a slanted, familiar hand. For when the world feels too heavy, shuffle until you see the light again. She untied the ribbon slowly. The edges of the cards were frayed, kissed by time. Her hands moved on instinct. Shuffle, cut, draw. Card, the fool. The card blinked up at her. A young figure stood at the edge of a cliff, sunlight behind him, a white rose in one hand, a small sack over his shoulder. A dog leapt at his feet, mid-bark or mid-dance. "Step forward!" A voice whispered. Aria froze. The cafe faded. The murmur of voices, the clink of cups, the hum of city life. Gone. She blinked. The world had tilted. She stood in a vast golden field. Grass waved like candle flames beneath her boots. The sky overhead shimmered, not blue, but something in between. Pearlescent, dreamlike. Behind her, a door hovered in the air, made of sunlight and swirling mist. Ahead, a path coiled into the distance, vanishing into clouds. Beside her stood a creature unlike anything she'd seen. A fox, sleek and shadow black, with eyes like molten opal. Around its neck hung a pendant shaped like a keyhole, glowing faintly violet. "I've been waiting," said the fox. Its mouth didn't move, but the words were there, unmistakable, inside her head, resonating like a memory she never made. Who are you?" Aria asked, voice trembling. "Call me Vesper," the fox said. "I'm your guide, though you may not always like where I lead." Aria blinked, half expecting the fox to vanish into mist. But Vesper remained, golden eyes watching her not with the wild twitch of an animal, but with something ancient, something knowing. "You're not just a fox," she said, uncertain. He tilted his head. "Number, I've worn many faces. This one pleases me." His voice was calm, edged in something playful, but beneath it, Aria sensed a flicker of grief, like an ember tucked under snow. "Did you know her?" Aria asked softly. "My grandmother?" Vesper's ears twitched, but he said nothing at first. Instead, he walked a slow circle around her, paws silent on the stone. "She was one of the few," he said finally. "She opened doors without fear. She danced between realms and left laughter in her wake." "She talked to you?" "More than that. She trusted me." Aria's throat tightened. 1,000 questions flared behind her eyes, but Vesper raised a paw before she could speak. "Not everything is told in words, child. Some truths come only through the journey." He glanced toward the shimmering gate behind him, its symbols pulsing like breath. "But know this," he added, his voice softening. "I did not come for just anyone. You were expected, and though I will walk beside you, You must step through each gate alone." Aria nodded, her fingers brushing the silver key that now hung from her neck. Somehow, she felt less alone. She clutched the Fool card in her hand. It was warm now, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "This isn't real. Reality is malleable," Vesper said with a yawn. "Especially in the Arcana." "The what?" "The Arcana? A realm between stories and symbols, forged from the 78 gates of the soul." "I just wanted to draw again," she whispered, "to stop feeling stuck." "Then walk," Vesper said simply. "Step foolishly forward. That's how all great journeys begin." A wind stirred the grass. In the distance, a mountain loomed, sharp as a blade. The road beckoned. "The Fool is not about foolishness," Vesper continued. "It is the zero, the seed, the breath before the first word. Your gate is open." Aria hesitated. "I don't know what I'm doing." "No one ever does. That's the beauty of beginnings." The card in her hand shimmered, then dissolved into golden dust. It circled her like a breeze and vanished. A door of mist formed in front of her, glowing with faint symbols: a cup, a wand, a sword, a coin. 78 gates lie ahead," Vesper said, voice soft now. "Each one a lesson, each one a mirror, and, at the end, you." Aria exhaled slowly. She thought of Grandma's hands, guiding hers, of the sketch she never finished, of the ache in her chest that no amount of city noise could fill. She stepped forward, and the gate swallowed her. Chapter 2. The Magician and the Forge of Wands. Aria landed on solid ground. The air was dry and hot, humming with hidden tension. She stood at the edge of a massive desert, but the sky above glowed twilight purple. Not the sun's doing, but something older, deeper. Pillars of obsidian jutted from the sand like shattered thoughts, and at the center, a circle of flame surrounded a stone altar. On it stood a man. No, not quite a man. His cloak shifted like smoke, revealing stars underneath. His eyes shimmered with colorless light. He held a wand in one hand, a golden coin in the other. A cup floated beside him. A sword rested at his feet. Card. "The Magician." "I know you," Aria whispered. "You know the idea of me," the figure replied. His voice echoed with layered tones, young and old, playful and grave. "But today, you become me." "What?" "The Magician is the channel," Vesper said from beside her, now perched atop a low stone. "He creates. He speaks the invisible into form. You want your art back? Then claim your fire." The altar burst into golden flame. From it rose a long rod of light. Card. Ace of Wands. Aria stepped forward. The wand hovered above the flames, whispering possibilities. Paint strokes, melodies, dreams not yet born. It was the spark, the beginning of all creation. "Reach," the magician said. She did. The heat licked at her fingers, testing her resolve. And when her skin brushed the wand, a jolt ran through her, visions bursting like fireworks. Grandma laughing, ink staining her hands, the moment Aria first drew wings on a paper napkin. "This is what you've forgotten." She gripped the wand. The flames died instantly. In her palm now rested a smooth branch of olive wood, warm and humming with life. Swirls of gold etched its surface, as though carved by light. "Good," said the magician, "but fire must be shaped." He raised his hand. The desert shifted. Suddenly, she stood in a forge, a canyon filled with molten rivers and anvils that pulsed like hearts. Sparks rained from above. Tools lined the walls. Wands in various stages of creation sat half buried in sand. "You've drawn first breath," Vesper said. "Now build. This is the gate of the two." Card. 2 of Wands. The path forked. To her left, a steep climb, jagged and risky, leading toward a tower of obsidian. To her right, a gentle slope, smooth and winding, ending in a bright oasis. "You choose your ambition," said the magician, now shaping a wand at the forge. Power without direction burns out. Vision without courage fades. Aria looked down at her wand. The flame within it dimmed slightly, waiting. "I want to create again," she whispered. "But not just safely, not just to survive." She turned left. The climb tore her boots. Her fingers bled, gripping the rocks. But as she reached the top, she saw it. A vast horizon, mountains, valleys, oceans of light. Card. 3 of Wands. From this height, she saw not just herself, but possibility. 3 burning wands stood planted in the stone. One was hers. The others, like echoes, mirrored future versions of her. An artist who dared, a voice that reached others, a girl who turned grief into gold. "You see now?" Vesper asked softly. "Yes," Aria said. "I'm not just healing. I'm becoming." The magician appeared beside her, his cloak rustling like wind. "Then take this," he said. He handed her a glowing shard, an ember, solid and sharp. "This is your spark, the fire that does not fade." She clutched it to her chest. It sank into her sternum, leaving no wound, only warmth. "Forge ahead," he said. "The wand is yours. The choice is yours. The power has always been yours." The mountain split. A path of molten gold unfolded before her. She looked at Vesper, who simply grinned. "Ready for the next flame?" She nodded and stepped through the fire. Chapter 3. Wands of celebration, conflict, and victory. Aria stepped into a golden orchard. Sunlight spilled through vines overhead. Lanterns hung from branches, swaying gently despite the still air. Tables were set with vibrant fruit, warm bread, and glistening cups. Musicians played strange but joyous tunes, and dancers moved like flames across an open clearing. It was a celebration, but not for her. Card. 4 of Wands. Vesper landed beside her, brushing crumbs off his feathers. "Welcome to the Festival of the Flame," he said. "The 4 of Wands, homecoming, harmony, joy earned after effort." "What are they celebrating?" Aria asked, eyeing the gathering with hesitation. "You?" Vesper said simply. She blinked. "But I haven't done anything yet." "Not here. But the part of you that dared to climb. The girl who reached for the wand and chose the harder path. She deserves this." A woman in a red veil approached and took Aria's hand. "Dance with us," she said. The music swelled. At first Aria hesitated, but then her feet remembered the beat. Her body moved, not to impress, not to perform, but to feel. With every spin, her heart lightened. Laughter came easily. For the first time in what felt like years, she didn't feel like someone recovering. She felt alive. Joy, Vesper said from a trellis, is not the end of the journey, but it's part of it. Don't skip this step. The music faded. The dancers bowed. The lanterns dimmed. A single flame remained. It flickered, revealing a new scene. A scorched arena, dome-shaped, surrounded by jagged stone. At the center stood 5 figures, each holding a staff. They argued, shouted, swung their wands in broad, chaotic arcs. Card. 5 of Wands. This is what follows joy, Vesper said, his voice grave. Not tragedy. Tension. The testing ground of ideas. What am I supposed to do? Join them. The figures turned as she stepped forward. Each was a version of her. One shouted, "Stick to realism! Art needs clarity." Another barked, "No, go abstract! Feelings over form." "Use color, lots of color!" screamed a third. "Monochrome is truth!" yelled the fourth. "Burn it all and start over!" hissed the fifth, eyes wild. Aria's hands shook. She raised her wand, and they rushed her. The clash wasn't violent, but overwhelming. Her wand tangled with theirs, voices overlapped in her head. Self-doubt, perfectionism, creative rage, the urge to quit. "I can't," she gasped, falling to one knee. "You must," Vesper called from above, wings backlit by fire. "This is the crucible. Not everyone who creates knows why. Do you?" Aria pressed her wand to the ground. Silence. She rose. "I create to feel, to remember, to share." The 5 Aria shadows froze. Then, one by one, they lowered their wands. The ground cracked open. A stairway of flame descended into the earth. "Victory," Vesper said, "earned through understanding." Card. 6 of Wands. She emerged in a city of sandstone, golden banners flapping above. Crowds of beings, some human, some not, lined the streets. They cheered as she passed. Some held paintings. Others held sketches of her climbing the obsidian cliff or dancing under lanterns. A white steed waited ahead. She climbed onto its back. As she rode through the square, she held her wand high. But something shifted. A tremor beneath the stones. From a nearby rooftop, a cloaked figure leapt down, blocking her path. He wore armor carved with flame symbols, and his eyes held challenge. Card. 7 of Wands. He raised his wand and struck. Their wands met with a burst of heat. "You've earned praise," he growled, "but can you defend it?" Aria parried, spun, and struck back. The duel moved through the city, across balconies, bridges, stairwells. Each strike tested not just her strength, but her belief. Could she hold her spark when questioned, when envied? "You don't belong here!" he roared, lunging. "I do!" she shouted, blocking the blow. "I earned this!" With a final twist, she disarmed him. He bowed, then faded like ash. The steed waited at the next gate, silent. Aria mounted again. The golden banners behind her rippled one last time. Vesper landed beside her, a rare look of pride on his face. "Well done," he said. but the fire isn't done with you yet. They rode into the twilight. Chapter 4. Wands of Speed, Burden, and Inner Fire. They emerged from the city's final gate onto a windblown plateau. Before them, 8 wands floated mid-air, angled like arrows in flight. The sky above pulsed with streaks of orange light, as if even time had sped up to keep pace. Card. 8 of Wands. These are the wands of momentum, Vesper called over the wind. When the moment comes, you must move. No delay. What moment? Aria asked. A sound cracked through the sky. The wands shot forward like lightning bolts, streaking toward 8 distant mounts on the horizon. One chance, Vesper said. Follow their trail or lose the spark. Aria broke into a sprint. The ground was unstable, rocks shifting, wind tearing at her sleeves. She leapt chasms, dodged flaming debris, and pushed her breath to the edge of collapse. Her legs burned, her heart thundered, but her focus never wavered. She reached the base of the 8th wand just as it struck, embedding itself into the stone. She placed her hand on it. The wind stilled. Ahead, a massive canyon stretched between her and the next gate. A narrow bridge of wands arched across it, wobbly, unstable. A lone figure stood halfway across. He was battered and scarred. One arm hung limp. 9 wands were planted behind him like stakes. Card 9 of Wands. Who are you? Aria asked, stepping carefully onto the bridge. The figure didn't move. I am what remains when the battle keeps coming, he rasped. I stand because there's no one else. Aria approached. You don't have to stand alone. He turned. His face was her own, older, wearier. Then carry what I could not. He handed her a flame-marked sash. It felt heavy. She continued across. Near the far edge, the path crumbled beneath her feet. She leapt and landed in a dark grove. Here, the air was thick and silent. 10 stone pedestals stood in a circle, each bearing a wand. One by one, they began to glow. Card 10 of Wands. Aria stepped forward. The moment she did, the wands lifted, hovering, then shot toward her. They planted themselves into a wooden harness that slammed onto her back. She fell to one knee. This is the burden, Vesper said quietly. The weight of purpose, the danger of too much. She grit her teeth. Her back screamed. I don't want to let anyone down, she said. But you can't carry everything. His voice softened. What will you set down, Aria? She closed her eyes and whispered, Fear. One wand blinked out. Perfectionism. Another vanished. Guilt. A third. By the time she finished, only 1 wand remained. She stood, taller, lighter. The grove parted. A small, curious voice called from the rocks ahead. Hey, you made it! Card, Page of Wands. A young version of Aria, maybe 10, sat beside a campfire, sketching a lopsided dragon. You remember me, don't you? The page said. You're who I used to be. The child grinned. Still in here? Still wondering what we can make? Aria knelt beside her. and drew a flame with her finger in the dirt. The flame lifted from the ground and hovered between them. "Don't forget me," the page said. "Promise?" "I won't." The flame pulsed, then shot into the sky like a flare. Moments later, a rider galloped in on a flaming horse. He wore armor forged of burning brass, his lance ablaze. Card, Knight of Wands. "No time to dawdle," he barked. "The fire moves fast. Mount up." Aria leapt on behind him. They rode across fire fields, desert dunes, and volcanic ridges. Lava sprayed in the distance like fountains. The knight whooped with joy. "Courage without fear," he shouted. "That's our code." "But what about direction?" Aria asked. "Figure it out on the way." As they rode into a wall of flame, the knight tossed her forward into a golden courtyard. A throne of fire stood at its center. A woman sat upon it, wreathed in sunflowers and embers, her eyes bright with knowing. Card, Queen of Wands. "You've run, fought, burned, and healed," the queen said. "Now ask, what do you desire?" Aria looked down at her hands. Expression, not applause. The queen smiled. "Then, you're ready." She handed Aria a staff tipped with obsidian and wrapped in wildflowers. From behind the throne, a regal man approached. He wore crimson robes, a lion at his side. Card, King of Wands. "You've held the spark," the king said. "But can you lead it?" Aria hesitated. "I don't know how." "Then learn by doing. Boldness is your ally." He handed her a golden ring. "Each card is not a moment," he said. "It is a mirror, and your fire has only begun." The world blurred. The flames folded into light. A new realm awaited. And the next suit, Cups, began to rise like mist beyond the horizon. Chapter 5. Cups of feeling, union, and overflow. The fires of wands faded into a gentle rainfall. Mist rose around Aria's ankles as she stepped onto a path of blue lotus petals. The air here was cool and fragrant, heavy with memory. Water flowed in slow streams beside the path, whispering to itself. Vesper spoke softly. "You've mastered the flame. Now comes the flood." A pool opened before her, round and glassy, reflecting the moon despite the daylight. From its center rose a single, radiant chalice, overflowing with clear water. Drops fell endlessly into the pond, yet it never spilled. Card, Ace of Cups. "Drink," Vesper said. "This is the cup of your true heart." Aria dipped her hands into the pool. The moment the water touched her lips, warmth bloomed behind her ribs, tender and wild. She saw her grandmother's hands holding tarot cards, her mother's laughter on a sunlit balcony, a forgotten song she used to hum in the bath. The memories shimmered, not as distractions, but as roots. From the edge of the pool, another chalice appeared, this one held by a figure cloaked in sea foam silk. Card, 2 of Cups. "I see you," the figure said, extending the cup. "I see you," Aria echoed, taking it. When their cups touched, a light bridge formed between them. "Unity," the voice whispered, "within and without." The water rose again. Aria found herself in a sun-drenched courtyard beside a circular table. 3 women, one old, one young, and one ageless, danced in a ring, laughing, holding their cups aloft. Card, 3 of cups. Come, one called. This joy is yours too. Aria joined them, and for a moment forgot all trials. The music was made of fountains and flute song. The 3 women toasted her courage, kissed her cheeks, and vanished in bubbles. The music faded. Now she sat beneath a fig tree, where 3 golden cups gleamed on the grass. A 4th hovered before her, offered by a clouded hand. But Aria frowned. She felt numb. Card, 4 of cups. Why does this feel hollow? She whispered. Vesper's voice came gently. Because feeling is not always joy. Sometimes it is rest, boredom, discontent. She looked again. The 4th cup pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. She reached for it. Slowly. The mist deepened. Shadows stirred. Before her stood 5 cups, 3 overturned, spilling dark liquid into the stream. 2 remained upright, behind her. Aria stared at the fallen ones. Card, 5 of cups. I lost so much, she whispered. Not all is lost, Vesper said. She turned. The 2 upright cups were glowing. One held the face of her grandmother smiling. The other held her own reflection, crying but alive. She gathered the standing cups. The others faded into the mist. Soft laughter echoed down a stone path, lined with white roses. There, a younger version of herself, perhaps 6, played with another girl. They chased each other around a fountain, trading flower crowns and secrets. Card, 6 of cups. Aria watched, her throat tightening. That was Lena, she murmured. My childhood best friend. The girls froze, mid-play. The younger Aria looked up. Remember us. I do, Aria whispered. I still do. The vision dissolved. Now she stood in a chamber of mirrors, each reflecting a different version of herself, dressed in royal robes or covered in vines or holding dragons. 7 cups floated above the mirrors, each glowing with a different color: red, green, gold, shadow, lightning, stars, and smoke. Card, 7 of cups. Choose, said a voice. I can't, Aria said. They're all possible. And all incomplete, Vesper answered. Illusion is the cousin of desire. She closed her eyes. Let them swirl. When she opened them, the mirrors were gone. Only a single stream remained, flowing toward a silver archway at the far end of the grove. The deeper emotions come next, Vesper said. Aria exhaled. I'm ready. Chapter 6. Letting go, fulfillment, and emotional mastery. The grove gave way to twilight. Aria followed the stream into a silent vale. Stones lined the shore like steps, and across the water stood a figure cloaked in midnight blue, gazing at 8 cups arranged in a gentle arc. Card, 8 of cups. These cups, I gathered them all, the figure said, without turning. Yet something still calls beyond. The voice trembled with longing. Aria stepped closer. Are you leaving them behind? The figure nodded. Sometimes the heart must walk away to be whole. Without another word, they turned and climbed the mountain path beyond the stream, fading into the mist. Aria stood there for a long time, staring at the cups, until the stream curved and beckoned her onward. The next clearing pulsed with golden light. 9 radiant cups floated in an arch, and beneath them sat a woman cloaked in velvet, hands folded contentedly over a round belly. She smiled as Aria entered, her eyes glinting like sunlit honey. Card, 9 of cups. Welcome, she said. You've earned a moment of joy. A feast shimmered into view. Bread, fruit, sweet wine, all glowing faintly. Aria hesitated, then sat and tasted the food. It was real, delicious. For all you've given, the woman said, you deserve to receive. Aria felt warmth unfurl in her chest. No lessons, no tests, just a pause, a celebration. Then the scene melted, and she was standing on a balcony, overlooking a sprawling valley. A rainbow arched across the sky, and a family stood below. Parents, children, elders, arms lifted in joy. Card, 10 of cups. Their laughter was wind chimes. Their happiness hummed through the stones. Aria felt her eyes sting. Is this real? She asked. It is the future you carry within, Vesper replied softly. The shape joy takes when shared. She watched the family fade into clouds, their joy still lingering in the air like perfume. A soft tide lapped at her heels. Card, Page of Cups. A boy stood barefoot in a shallow tide pool, trousers rolled to the knee. His seafoam eyes glimmered with wonder. In his hands he held a cup, not ornate, but simple like something shaped by a child's hand. What is this place? Aria asked. He smiled and tilted the cup toward her. A fish poked its head out, blinking curiously. It's the beginning, he said. Not of knowledge, but of feeling. Aria knelt. And what am I meant to feel? The boy shrugged. Whatever rises? The fish leapt from the cup, splashing her. Aria laughed without meaning to, and in that moment, a weight she hadn't known she carried seemed to lift. The boy smiled wider. You're ready. The tide pool shimmered, and the scene dissolved into ripples of light. Card, Knight of Cups. A silver horse emerged from the mist, its hooves barely disturbing the water's surface. Atop it sat a knight in glimmering armor, etched with waves and moons. His helmet was off, revealing kind eyes at a face worn by gentle sorrow. In his hand, he held a chalice, not raised high in victory, but offered forward like a question. You've opened your heart, he said, his voice soft as the ripple of tide. But can you carry it? Aria approached, the mist swirling around her ankles. I'm trying, she said. Then let me show you the way. He extended the cup, and as her fingers touched the rim, a vision flooded her mind. Not of battle, but of quiet devotion. Hands held across time, words unsaid, beauty glimpsed in fleeting moments. To love deeply, he said, is to be willing to fall without armor. This path demands presence, intention. The horse bowed. The knight offered a nod of farewell. Ride with grace, Aria, and never forget. Emotion is not weakness, it is the vessel of truth. Then he turned. vanishing into the mist as silently as he'd come. She turned and found herself standing before a throne, carved from seashells and coral, half submerged in water. Upon it sat a regal figure whose silver gown shimmered with ripples. The Queen of Cups. Card. Queen of Cups. Her eyes held oceans. "You felt deeply," she said. "But have you listened deeply?" She handed Aria a silver chalice filled with quiet. Aria raised it. The liquid inside reflected not her face, but her feelings: grief, awe, guilt, desire, beauty, swirling. "Drink," the queen whispered. Aria did, and the feelings passed through her like waves, none overwhelming, all accepted. "You do not have to become your feelings to honor them," the queen said. "Let them pass, like tides." As the throne dissolved into foam, a tall man stood behind her, half lit by lightning and rain. He wore a robe of storm blue with a golden cup balanced in his open hand. His crown was barnacled with time. Card. King of Cups. "Emotion can be fierce," he said, "but it must not drown you." He extended the cup. Aria took it. It was heavy. "Wisdom holds the flood within form," he said. "Compassion with boundaries, love with strength." She bowed her head. "And what if I falter?" she asked. "Then you'll rise again. Even water remembers how to flow." He touched the cup, and a ripple passed through Aria's chest, anchoring her. The mist rolled back. Before her stood a mirror-like lake, its surface reflecting everything she'd felt in the realm of cups. From its center rose the cup of synthesis, cradled by a lotus bloom. Aria stepped onto the water. Each step lit the surface with silver light until she reached the cup and placed her hand around it. Warmth, stillness, completion. The cup dissolved into her palm, leaving behind a sigil on her skin, a teardrop holding a crescent moon. Vesper's voice murmured, "You have felt. You have flowed. Now comes the mind." The water parted. A staircase of wind and marble emerged, leading into the sky. Chapter 7. The Edge of Thought and the Weight of Truth. The staircase rose through the pale mist, each step solid beneath Aria's feet despite its ethereal glow. As she climbed, wind whispered around her ears, half breeze, half breath. The final step opened into a sky temple of polished stone, floating amid clouds. Blades lined the walls, some gleaming, some rusted, some shattered. In the center stood a pedestal with a sword plunged into crystal. Card, Ace of Swords. A voice echoed like metal. "Take it only when your mind is clear." Aria approached. Doubt swirled around her thoughts. Would she be strong enough? Was she worthy? Then she remembered the cup, the stillness within, and inhaled slowly. One breath, one truth. Her fingers curled around the hilt. The crystal cracked. The blade slid free, glowing with radiant silver light. Vesper appeared beside her, solemn. "The sword shows truth, and truth, child of stars, is never without cost." The clouds darkened. A curtain of fog parted. revealing a narrow bridge between twin towers. On it stood two versions of Aria, one blindfolded, holding swords crossed at her chest, the other staring outward with fierce, defiant eyes. Card, two of swords. They each took a step toward her. You must choose, Vesper said. But know this, denial is a choice too. The blindfolded Aria whispered, Stay still. Wait. Keep the peace. The fierce Aria cried, Cut through. Act, even if it hurts. Tension gripped her chest. Each path bore risk. Finally, she raised the ace of swords and struck the fog between them. It shattered like glass. Neither version vanished. Instead, they merged, balanced, peace and action. The bridge dissolved. Rain fell. In its place stood a heart carved from red stone, pierced by 3 silver blades. Card, 3 of swords. Grief? Aria sank to her knees. Her chest ached. I couldn't save her, she whispered. The heart pulsed. Pain echoed from it like thunder. You were never meant to, said a voice, not Vesper's, but soft and feminine. You were meant to carry her, not fix her. A figure stepped forward. Her grandmother, ageless and kind. She touched Aria's hand, then vanished. The rain stopped. A stone tomb rose from the earth. Inside lay a version of Aria curled in sleep, 3 swords suspended above her. Card, 4 of swords. Rest is not weakness, Vesper said. It is preparation. Aria stepped into the tomb and lay beside her reflection. For a moment, all thoughts ceased. When she rose, the swords had vanished. Her mind was still. Wind howled. The ground cracked. Figures circled her, some laughing cruelly, others backing away. One stepped forward, dragging a blade across the ground. He was her, sharper, colder. Card, 5 of swords. Do you want to win? He hissed. Or do you want to heal? He threw the blade at her feet. Choose. Aria picked up the sword and laid it down. The specter vanished, along with the crowd. Silence. In the center of the temple, 5 swords now hung suspended, each etched with a truth she had faced. Clarity, decision, pain. Restaurant, humility. A 6th stone rose from the ground. Upon it sat the shard of revelation, shaped like a glass blade. Aria reached for it. The moment her hand touched the hilt, wind surged around her, and the shard dissolved into light, fusing with the sword she carried. It became clearer, lighter, truer. Vesper emerged from the mist, his voice a whisper. You've drawn the blade. Next comes the storm. The wind shifted, pulling her toward a gate of stone, marked by storm clouds. Chapter 8. Tempests of the mind and shadows of the soul. The wind pressed harder now, howling like a wounded beast. Aria shielded her eyes as she stepped through the gate, into a world of shattered marble and swirling fog. Pillars leaned like broken thoughts, and the air smelled of wet stone and memory. A silver boat waited by a dark river, barely tethered to the bank. In it sat a cloaked figure, face hidden beneath a hood. Card, 6 of swords. No one crosses alone. the figure murmured. Truth must be ferried across sorrow. Aria stepped in. The river moved silently beneath them. They passed scenes suspended in fog. Her grandmother's empty chair, a blank canvas torn in half, the cafe where she had once sold her sketches. Empty now. I left them behind, Aria whispered. The figure nodded. That is why you're moving forward. As they reached the far bank, the boat dissolved, and a new path emerged, slippery and cracked. Shadows darted between jagged ruins. Aria walked cautiously until she saw him, a mirror version of herself again. This time, he held a bundle of scrolls, eyes shifting nervously. Card, 7 of Swords. He crept behind stone pillars, avoiding her gaze. What are you hiding? She called. He froze. It's not theft, it's strategy. He dropped one scroll. On it was a drawing she'd made years ago, signed with her name, but repainted in a different style. I thought I had to be like them to succeed, he muttered. No, she said firmly. You succeed by being real. She stepped forward and reclaimed the scroll. The trickster vanished with a smirk. One sword remained in his place, etched with the word authenticity. A narrow canyon opened, and Aria descended into darkness. The air grew tight. Stone walls loomed around her like closing jaws. She tripped, tried to rise, couldn't. Card. 8 of Swords. Invisible bindings gripped her arms and legs. Her vision narrowed. I can't move. I can't breathe. But then, Vesper's voice echoed faintly. The cage is a mirror. She closed her eyes, breathed, and saw the bindings, nothing but smoke. She stood. The fog shattered. A stairway led into a chamber of mirrors. Each one reflected a different version of herself. One wept, one screamed, one stood completely still, staring with wide, sleepless eyes. Card. 9 of Swords. The chamber pulsed with fear. Nightmares whispered, You'll fail, you'll forget her, you're not enough. Aria trembled, then remembered the cup of synthesis. She clutched the invisible totem to her chest and sang. Soft at first, then stronger. Each note cracked a mirror until only one remained, her own reflection, smiling back with tear-streaked cheeks and steady breath. The chamber collapsed behind her. A hill of blades awaited. Each sword pierced a figure lying face down, copies of herself at different stages. A younger Aria with paint-stained hands, the one who ran from grief, the one who gave up on art. Card. 10 of Swords. It was overwhelming. She knelt, tears falling freely. Then she whispered, I forgive you. And the swords pulled themselves from the bodies, melting into light. From their remnants rose a crown of silver. She placed it gently on her brow. Vesper stepped from behind a crumbling wall. To endure the mind storm is to earn the stillness beyond. She nodded, silent. Above her, the clouds began to break. In the center of the ruins, 5 swords floated, now inscribed with passage, integrity, liberation, awakening, surrender. Together, they formed the helm of clarity, a mental focus forged in suffering and survival. Aria took the helm, and the wind fell still. Card, Page of Swords. The wind stirred, sharp and curious. A young figure stood atop a windswept hill, a silver blade held upright, eyes wide with questions. "I am the page," the youth said. "Words are my wings. Truth is my blade." Aria approached, the air charged with restless energy. "Why do you stand alone?" "To listen," the page replied, tilting their head. "Before you speak, listen to the world. It whispers its secrets through every breeze." A flock of paper birds circled above, each etched with inked thoughts. One dove into Aria's hands, a forgotten truth scrawled across its wings. "You chase clarity," the page said. "But clarity begins with curiosity. Ask, doubt, seek." Aria frowned. "What if my questions lead nowhere?" "They always lead somewhere," the page smiled. "Even doubt sharpens the mind." They pointed their blades skyward. Thunder rolled in agreement. "Carry questions like lanterns," the page said. "They light the dark." The air swirled, pages fluttered, and the page vanished with a gust. Card, Knight of Swords. A blur of wind and steel cut through the sky. The Knight of Swords rode a white-winged steed, streaking across the clouds like a comet. "Name your cause," the knight bellowed, halting beside Aria. "I seek understanding," she said. "Then cut through confusion," he cried. "The blade of truth does not hesitate." He dismounted with a force like thunder. His armor gleamed with etched oaths, promises kept, battles fought for ideals. "Speed is power," the knight said, pacing. "But direction is wisdom. A sharp mind moves fast, but never blindly." Aria tried to match his stride. "And if I falter?" "Then draw again," he said, offering a second blade. "The mind recovers faster than the heart. Use it." His sword sliced a path through fog, revealing a gleaming gate behind. "Charge when others stall," the knight urged, "but never forget why you run." He mounted again, saluted, and vanished in a gust of thought. Card, Queen of Swords. Mist hung over a marble terrace. There, seated on a throne of clouds and carved logic, was the Queen of Swords. Her crown shimmered with crystalline clarity, and her sword rested upright beside her. "You've come through storm and silence," she said, her voice like wind through glass. "What have you learned?" Aria bowed. "That truth is sharp but fair." The queen nodded. "And so is judgment. Mercy, too, but not at truth's expense." She rose, walking to the edge. Beneath them, shifting clouds revealed moments from Aria's past. Words spoken, choices made, silences held too long. "To rule the mind is to see clearly," the queen said, "but never coldly. Discernment must be tempered with heart." She extended a silver mask. "Use this not to hide, but to see." Aria took it. When she looked through its eyes, illusions crumbled. "See others. See yourself," the queen whispered, "and speak with both precision and compassion." The mask dissolved. The queen turned back to her throne, already fading. Lead with wisdom. Rule with truth. and the wind carried Aria forward. Card, King of Swords. Lightning crackled across a starlit dome. At its center, seated on a high throne of steel and stone, was the King of Swords. His presence was quiet, but unshakable, like the stillness before a verdict. "You've wielded words," he said without preamble. "Now, wield wisdom." His sword was sheathed, but his eyes cut sharper than any blade. Aria stepped forward, her thoughts fluttering like leaves in a storm. "Your trials sharpened your insight," the king said. "But insight without structure is chaos." He gestured to a circle of glowing runes, equations, and symbols orbiting slowly. "The mind must be both blade and compass. Intellect must serve order, not ego." Aria swallowed. "But how do I judge without becoming cold?" The king rose. "By remembering truth is not a weapon. It is a light. Hold it high, not to blind others, but to illuminate the path." He removed a ring from his finger, a silver band with a balance scale engraved upon it, and handed it to her. "Lead with reason. Speak with integrity. Think beyond yourself." Aria slipped the ring on. A pulse of clarity spread through her chest. "Then go," the king said. "The blade of the mind is now yours, but its edge is kept not by sharpness, only by purpose." The winds stilled, the dome faded, and Aria stepped forward, the weight of clarity light upon her hand. Another gate shimmered ahead, wreathed in roots and green. She breathed deeply, grounding herself. Time to descend into the final elemental trial, the realm of Pentacles. Chapter 9. Roots of Legacy and Seeds of Worth. The ground beneath Aria's feet shifted from stone to soil. She stepped through the gate into a world of lush earth and ancient groves. Moss clung to every surface, and low golden sunlight filtered through thick branches. The air was cool, rich with the scent of wet bark and ripe fruit. A wide oak stood in the center, its trunk hollowed like a doorway. At its base, a glimmering coin rested in a bed of fresh earth. Card, Ace of Pentacles. Aria knelt and lifted it. The moment her fingers touched the coin, green light pulsed outward in concentric rings. A voice whispered, "This is your seed. Will you bury it or spend it?" "I'll plant it," she said without hesitation. She pressed the coin into the soil. A sapling sprang up instantly, its roots curling deep, its branches rising with golden leaves. A path formed, stone steps winding through a garden of balance and motion. There, two orbs floated above pedestals, one filled with gold sand, the other with silver water. A robed woman stood between them, juggling the orbs with graceful rhythm. Card, Two of Pentacles. "Choose poorly," she said, "and time will drown your gifts. Choose wisely, and they will feed your future." Aria reached out, mirroring the woman's gestures, shifting weight, switching hands. At first, it was awkward, but then she found a rhythm, flow, focus. The orbs merged into a yin-yang disc, which spun and settled into her palm. "Adaptation is mastery," the woman said, fading with a smile. The garden widened. Now she entered a grove of scaffolding and chisels. Artists worked in harmony, carving stone, weaving vines, building a temple from living wood. A bearded man approached, holding a blueprint etched in bark. Card, 3 of Pentacles. Every masterpiece is collaboration, he said. Will you build with us? Aria joined in. She wove vines through the beams, guided by instinct and rhythm. Others added their touches: sculpted leaves, inlaid shells, drops of amber resin. The structure rose, alive with craft and community. Your vision grows stronger when shared, the man said, bowing. A crystal tile formed in her hand, etched with the symbol of synthesis. Aria continued on. But now the path narrowed. Stone walls pressed in, and at the center of a marble archway, a solitary man crouched. He clutched a chest close to his chest, eyes darting. Card, 4 of Pentacles. Mine, he hissed. I built it. I earned it. No one else can touch it. Aria stepped forward. What good is treasure if it turns into a prison? He snarled. They'll steal it, twist it, leave me with nothing. She placed her hand gently on his. I know what it's like to fear losing what matters. He looked up, startled. Slowly, he released the chest. It opened, not with gold, but glowing seeds inside. He gasped. I never knew. Then he vanished. The path darkened. Cold wind crept in through cracks in the stone. Snow crunched beneath her feet. 2 figures huddled beneath a ruined arch, one limping, the other covering her face in shame. Card, 5 of Pentacles. They looked up as Aria approached. Do you bring pity? One asked. Or promises? Neither, Aria said softly. But I bring warmth. She removed her cloak and draped it over them. The younger of the 2 began to cry. From her tears, a small fire sparked, gentle, golden. A stained glass window shimmered behind them, lighting up with color. On it, the symbol of sanctuary. Vesper emerged from the falling snow, his own cloak dusted in white. You've given comfort in a world that feared scarcity, he said. A richer gift than gold. Aria nodded. The snow stopped. The roots beneath her feet began to pulse with light. 5 coins rose from the soil, aligning in a spiral. They spun once, then combined into a radiant pendant, the medallion of generosity. She placed it beside her other totems. 5 more gates remained in the realm of Pentacles. But she could feel something shifting. Her mind was growing still. Her purpose clearer. And beyond the final gate in this realm, she sensed it. The temples of the Major Arcana, the heart of the journey. Chapter 10. The weight of worth and the Golden Gate? A warm breeze stirred Aria's hair. The snow of the previous trial melted into soft grass, and she stepped into a courtyard lit by lanterns. In the center, a cloaked figure stood behind a table stacked with coins, some rusted, others gleaming. 3 figures knelt on one side of the courtyard, hands outstretched. 2 more lingered behind Aria, uncertain. Card, 6 of Pentacles. The cloaked figure turned to her. Who deserves abundance? Aria hesitated. The instinct to give pulsed strong, but the question wasn't simple. Those in need, she said, but not just those with open hands. those who can grow it. She knelt and placed one of her own earned coins on the table. The cloaked figure nodded and distributed coins to all 5 figures, each receiving not equally, but uniquely. One a coin, one a seed, one a tool, one a book, and one a lamp. They asked for the same thing, the figure said, but they needed different things. The coin Aria had offered returned to her, now glowing green. She passed through an arch of hanging vines into a quiet orchard. The trees here bore fruit, but not all were ripe. A woman stood among the rows, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on a single peach. Card. 7 of Pentacles. I planted this tree years ago, she said. It grows, slowly. Sometimes I wonder if I should have picked a different seed. Aria touched the tree. It thrummed with life. But you waited. You trusted it. I still do, the woman whispered. But waiting is the heaviest work. They watched as the peach turned gold. Aria picked it and held it to her heart. A gate of polished wood opened behind her, marked with careful carvings. Inside was a circular chamber filled with tools, half-finished projects, and the steady tap of a hammer. A focused boy worked at a bench, sculpting coins from molten metal. Card. 8 of Pentacles. He didn't look up as she approached. Want to help? He asked. But only if you'll work. She smiled and sat beside him. They labored side by side, melting, stamping, shaping. Each coin bore a different symbol: sun, moon, mountain, leaf, flame. After hours, or what felt like hours, the boy held up her coin. Imperfect, he said, but it's yours. And it's honest. She laughed, wiping sweat from her brow. I'll take it. The boy vanished, but his anvil remained, glowing faintly. Through another doorway, she entered a garden. Every plant grew with elegant precision. Roses trimmed to spiral forms, vines shaped into arches, fruit trees humming with bees. A woman in a gown of woven green sat sipping tea. Card. 9 of Pentacles. Welcome, she said. Here, all is cultivated. Nothing is wild unless chosen. Birds fluttered around her, one landing on Aria's shoulder. You've worked hard, the woman said. Now, enjoy it. Aria took a seat. She tasted a grape, and warmth spread through her chest, not from hunger, but fulfillment. She looked at her reflection in a pool beside them, strong, calm, radiant. Freedom comes not just from wealth, the woman added, but from knowing you built it. The bird took flight, and the gate beyond opened with a golden creak. She stepped through. Stone steps led into a chamber of marble and moss. On a raised throne sat a man in robes of deep forest green, surrounded by golden vines. His crown bore the sigil of a mountain. Card. 10 of Pentacles. Aria entered a stone courtyard where vines crawled along weathered walls. A great tree stood in the center, its roots tangled with coins and old bones. A family gathered nearby, elders, children, and pets, all smiling at her arrival. Legacy? A voice echoed. The eldest figure stepped forward, handing Aria a carved wooden token etched with 10 golden discs. What we build in life, she said, should endure beyond it. Aria watched as scenes unfolded. Generations planting seeds, building homes, raising children. Each act became a golden coin, falling into the earth, becoming part of the foundation. You carry more than yourself, the elder continued. You carry those who came before and those who will come after. Aria thought of her grandmother, of the tarot deck, of every brushstroke she'd hesitated to place. Her art was not just expression, it was inheritance. She knelt, placing her hand to the soil. A surge of memory and purpose flowed into her. The roots of the tree shimmered, drawing strength from the coins, the bones, the dreams of generations. Honor your lineage, the elder whispered, but do not be bound by it. Evolve it. As Aria rose, the tree shed golden leaves, each representing a story that would outlive its teller. She caught one. The gate shimmered, the past, present, and future folded into her step. Card, Page of Pentacles. A clearing opened into a quiet field bathed in morning light. There, kneeling in soft grass, was a young figure, earth-toned cloak, wide eyes, and dirt-smudged hands, cradling a single golden coin like a fragile seed. "You found me," the page said, eyes bright. "I've just planted my first intention." He pointed to a small sprout, pushing through the soil beside him. "This is the start of all things real, not dreams, not theories, roots." Aria smiled, kneeling beside him. "How do you know it will grow?" He shrugged. "I don't. But I believe in the soil, and I'll learn." He handed her a blank parchment. "Write your promise to the earth," he said. "Not just what you want, but what you'll give." Aria paused. Then she wrote, "I'll create something that lasts." The page nodded with approval. Pentacles aren't about wealth. They're about value, real value. You put in the work, you grow the gold. He stood, brushing off his knees. "And when you fall into the earth. She'll teach you." He gave Aria a simple pendant made of clay, shaped like a seed. "May your hands never forget how to plant." The sprout shimmered. The field brightened. And Aria walked on, with mud on her boots and a vow in her heart. Card, Knight of Pentacles. A heavy thud echoed through the low hills as a rider approached. Armor the color of soil and harvest, mount sturdy as an ox. The Knight of Pentacles halted before her, dismounted, and knelt to inspect the ground. "Timing," he said, not looking up. "That's the secret. Not speed, not flair, just the right pace." He stood and handed Aria a spade. "Dig with me." She joined him, tilling a row beneath the setting sun. The work was silent, methodical, each movement a part of something greater than itself. "You want greatness?" he said finally. "Build it one brick at a time. Lay it like your ancestors laid roads. Don't rush. Don't cut corners." He motioned to a growing garden behind him. Nothing grand, but thriving. "This is how empires begin." Aria wiped sweat from her brow. "But what if it takes too long?" The knight smiled. "If it's worth doing, it's worth waiting for." He removed his gauntlet and pressed a small pentacle medallion into her hand. It was worn smooth with time. "Honor your craft. Show up daily. That's the true magic." Then he mounted his steed and rode on, not fast, but certain. And Aria felt the weight of commitment settle into her spine like armor. Card, Queen of Pentacles. In a sunlit grove filled with fruit trees and flowers, the Queen of Pentacles sat upon a throne woven of vines and branches. A rabbit nestled beside her. A child played at her feet. She held a golden pentacle in one hand and a bouquet of herbs in the other. "You've come far," she said, her voice warm like fresh bread. Aria bowed. "You are the keeper of abundance?" The queen laughed softly. "No, child. I'm the keeper of balance, of giving and receiving." She beckoned Aria to sit and offered her a bowl of stew. True prosperity nourishes others. It is shared, not hoarded. Around them, the land pulsed with quiet harmony. Gardens tended, children laughing, animals resting peacefully. "You've learned to plant," the queen said. "Now learn to tend. Prosperity is not a prize, it's a practice." Aria watched her feed a bird with one hand, while steadying the child with the other. "This is the real magic," the queen said. "To nurture life, to ground spirit in form." She placed a woven bracelet around Aria's wrist, woven with gold thread and green vines. "Let your art be like this," she said. "Beautiful, useful, alive." The grove shimmered. Aria stood with new steadiness and walked toward the next gate with roots beneath her feet. Card, King of Pentacles. He studied her with warm eyes. "Tell me," he said, "what is the value of a coin that cannot be spent?" Aria stepped forward and offered him the coin she had made in the forge, the seed she had planted, the shard she had earned. "It's not meant to be spent," she said. "It's meant to be remembered." He smiled. "You carry wealth already, not in your hands, but in your hands' works." He extended a hand, and the vines behind the throne twisted upward, forming a new gate. As Aria approached it, Vesper stepped beside her once more. "4 realms," he said, "and you carry the gifts of all: spark, heart, mind, and root." He touched her shoulder. "The final trials await, the temples of the Major Arcana." The gate flared with multicolored light: red, blue, gold, violet. And as Aria stepped forward, she felt the hum of something ancient, awakening. Chapter 11. The Threshold of the Arcana. The gate behind her sealed with a soft hum. Aria stood on a bridge of light suspended in an endless sky. No stars, no ground, only mist swirling beneath. In her satchel were the 4 totems: the Wand of Mastery, Cup of Synthesis, Sword of Reflection, and Pentacle of Legacy. Each pulsed faintly with power. Ahead loomed a temple of shifting form, its spires curved and straight, its doors both open and closed. A voice echoed, neither male nor female, young nor old. "This is the hall of the Major Arcana. 22 gates, 22 truths." Card, the Magician. The first chamber burst into view. A man in a crimson robe stood before a table. Upon it lay all the tools: a wand, a cup, a sword, and a coin, just like hers. With one hand, he pointed upward. With the other, he touched the table. "You now hold the 4 suits," he said, voice calm. "But can you use them?" He flicked his fingers, and the tools rose into the air. spinning around Aria. They obey thought, he continued, but demand belief. The tools stilled. Aria reached out, not with her hands, but with intent. The wand leapt into her palm. The sword hovered near her back. The cup poured radiant water over her heart. The pentacle landed beneath her feet, forming a sigil. The magician bowed. You are no longer the fool. He vanished. Card, the high priestess. Velvet curtains parted. A woman sat between two pillars, one black, one white. A crescent moon adorned her crown. Her eyes were closed, yet Aria felt seen. This is not knowledge, the woman said. This is knowing. Aria stepped forward. The air thickened like honey. The truths you've learned, the woman whispered, mean little if you don't trust yourself. A scroll floated to Aria's hands, blank. It will write itself when you are silent. Aria closed her eyes, and in the quiet, a line etched across the parchment. You already know the way. She opened her eyes. The scroll dissolved. The priestess was gone. Card, the empress. She stepped into a wild garden of gold and green. Birdsong filled the air. Vines crawled gently over stone benches. At the garden center sat a woman, crowned with 12 stars, her belly round, her dress flowing like water. Creation, she said, smiling, not only from effort, but from rest. The Empress offered Aria a fruit shaped like a heart. Aria bit into it, and her limbs softened. You've strived, the Empress said. Now let the seed grow in stillness. Flowers bloomed at Aria's feet. One opened to reveal her grandmother's paintbrush, whole again, gleaming. Tears filled her eyes. You are the garden, the Empress whispered. Water yourself. Card, the Emperor? Stone pillars replaced trees. A man clad in red armor stood before a throne, carved from mountains. His beard was white, his gaze firm but fair. No realm stands without structure, he said. No art without form. He handed Aria a square block of marble and a chisel. Shape this. Aria struck once, then again. It was hard, unyielding, but not lifeless. She chipped and scraped until a figure emerged, herself, standing tall, arms wide. The Emperor nodded. Freedom requires foundation. Beauty requires frame. He placed the sculpture behind her. You are both dreamer and builder. Card, the Hierophant. Chimes rang. A temple rose, carved from countless hands. Within, 5 figures sat around a fire. They wore robes of every color. One stood and beckoned Aria forward. I do not teach, he said. I remember. He touched her forehead. Visions flooded her, of artists through time, of her grandmother's laughter, of forgotten dreams passed down like prayers. We are the chain, the Hierophant said. The art is eternal. A candle flared in Aria's hand, lit from the fire. It is your turn to carry it. The 5 chambers dissolved into starlight. Aria stood once more in the sky bridge corridor. 5 gates remained behind her, glowing softly like distant memories. 17 more shimmered ahead. Vesper appeared beside her again, face calm but awed. "You're beginning to remember who you are." She nodded, the scroll's invisible words echoing inside her. "You already know the way." He motioned toward the next gate. "Come, the lovers await." Chapter 12. The Path of Union and Strength. The next gate shimmered open. It led into a garden split down the center, half blooming with roses and golden light, half cast in cool blue shadow. Aria stepped inside and felt an immediate tug at her heart, as if caught between two melodies. Card, the lovers. Two figures stood beneath a tree, one with fire in his eyes, the other calm as moonlight. Between them, an angel hovered, wings stretched wide. "You are the artist," the angel said, "but also the canvas. Which self will you love?" Aria approached. The fiery figure spoke first. "Choose passion. Burn for your vision." The calm one added, "Or choose peace. Create from stillness." They reached for her hands. She looked from one to the other, then drew her own hands inward. "I choose integration," she said. "Both fire and water. Both me." The angel smiled. Above them, the tree blossomed with ruby fruit. A single petal fell into Aria's palm. Card, the chariot. Stone gave way to sand. A chariot carved from ivory and obsidian stood at the edge of a vast desert. Two sphinxes waited before it, one black, one white. The reins floated, unheld. "You cannot drive forward by force," came a voice from the wind. "Only by will." Aria stepped into the chariot. The reins pulled taut. The sphinxes pulled in opposite directions. The chariot groaned. Aria closed her eyes. "Not control. Alignment. I see you both," she whispered, "and I ride between." The chariot surged forward, gliding across the sand like starlight. The desert blurred into memory. Card, strength. A meadow opened. At its center, a lion roared. Before it stood a woman in white, her hand resting gently on the beast's mane. Her eyes met Aria's. "Strength is not domination," she said softly. "It is presence." The lion circled Aria, baring fangs. She trembled, but stood still. Her breath slowed. Her fear softened. The lion paused, then nuzzled against her, purring like a storm soothed. The woman approached and handed Aria a garland woven from flame and fur. "Courage is quiet. Wear it." Card, the hermit. The meadow dimmed. A snowy peak rose into the clouds, and Aria climbed in silence. At the summit stood an old man cloaked in gray. A lantern glowed in his hand, casting light only a few steps ahead. He said nothing. Aria joined him. Together, they stared into the void. The lantern's glow touched the darkness. In the silence, Aria heard the softest truth. The path is walked alone, but never truly alone. The hermit placed the lantern in her hands. "Light your own way. Others will follow." As the four trials faded, Aria stood once more on the sky bridge. In her satchel now, a rose petal, a flame garland, a chariot token etched with starlight, and a softly glowing lantern. She looked to Vesper. His eyes glinted with quiet pride. You've learned love, will, courage, solitude, all forms of power. Aria breathed in. I'm ready for the wheel to turn. And with that, she stepped towards the next gate. Chapter 13. The Turning of the Wheel. The air shimmered, and the path beneath Aria's feet vanished. She found herself suspended in the sky, standing atop a massive golden wheel spinning slowly in space. Symbols of the four elements turned on its spokes, glowing with celestial light. Card, the Wheel of Fortune. Vesper stood nearby, his voice distant, echoing like thunder wrapped in silk. This is the wheel, he said. It turns with or without you. As the wheel rotated, Aria saw glimpses in its golden rim, her past failures, fleeting triumphs, her grandmother's soft smile, the blank canvas in her apartment. Each moment spun past her like a thread in a tapestry. Lightning struck the wheel's edge. It jerked. She stumbled. What do I do? She shouted. Nothing, said Vesper. You accept. You adapt. You create with the turning, not against it. Aria stood firm, breath steady. The wheel stopped spinning. One spoke gleamed brighter than the rest. A door opened there. Card. Justice. A temple rose from clouds. Inside, marble pillars soared and mirrors lined the walls. At the far end stood a tall woman in silver robes, blindfolded, holding a sword in one hand and a scale in the other. The woman's voice rang out. What truth must be faced? The mirrors lit up, each one showing a version of Aria. The child who lied to fit in, the teen who abandoned her art, the adult who hid her grief. Not guilt, the woman said. Not shame, just balance. Aria stepped forward and placed a feather from her satchel onto the scale. Her heart thudded as the mirror visions faded. The scale balanced. Justice nodded. You see clearly now? You may go. Card. The Hanged Man. The temple melted away. Aria found herself hanging upside down from the branch of a silver tree that stretched endlessly across the sky. She wasn't bound. She could release herself, but she didn't. Everything looked different from here. Mountains curved like bowls. Stars formed shapes she'd never seen. The world below pulsed with rhythm and light. A voice, not Vesper's, whispered in her mind. To see truly, you must unlearn. She wept, not from sorrow, but relief. Then the tree lowered her gently to the earth. Card. Death. The next gate opened into a field of ash. A figure in dark armor rode toward her on a white horse. His face was a skull, but his eyes burned like stars. Do not fear me, Death said. I do not end life. I end illusion. Around her, petals disintegrated into seeds. Charred trees crumbled into soil. Aria knelt. She placed her grief in the ashes. Every old sketch, every empty canvas, every unspoken goodbye to her grandmother. The ground shimmered. From the soil, green shoots sprouted. A single lily bloomed. Death dismounted and bowed to her. Rebirth is yours, he said. Carry it wisely. Aria emerged, blinking against the dawn. Her satchel held a glowing spoke, a balanced scale, a silver branch, and a white lily. Each was heavy with meaning: cycles, clarity, surrender, and transformation. Vesper met her gaze. You've danced with fate and survived the fall. Now comes the light and the shadow. Aria nodded. She felt stripped bare, but also reborn. Let's go. Chapter 14. The Alchemy of Light and Shadow. Aria stepped into a valley lit by golden twilight. Rivers flowed from opposite sides, one red as fire, the other blue as ice. In the center, an androgynous being with luminous wings poured liquid from one chalice to another, blending them in perfect silence. Card. Temperance. The angel looked up. You seek harmony, they said, but you carry extremes. Aria opened her satchel. The wheels spun, the scales gleamed, the lily pulsed, and the silver branch hummed with strange tension. Then blend them, said the angel, not to tame, but to temper. Aria stepped forward, dipped her hand in both rivers, and poured their waters into a third cup. A glow filled the air. Her heartbeat steadied. The rivers merged behind her, forming a single stream. Temperance bowed. Balance was not stillness. It was flow. Card. The devil! The next gate cracked open with a hiss. She entered a chamber of obsidian walls, lit by red flame. At its center stood a horned figure draped in chains, smirking. Behind him, people danced in pleasure and pain, bound by golden collars, but smiling all the while. Come closer, he said. You've earned rest, a taste, a thrill. Aria stepped forward. Her limbs grew heavy. The air smelled of sweet wine and old fears. In the shadows, she saw herself, chained to her grief, her doubts, her longing for validation. The devil laughed. No one binds you but you. She reached up. The collar was illusion. It melted at her touch. The chains turned to smoke. The chamber collapsed. Card. The tower. Lightning tore the sky. A black spire loomed above her, unshakable, ancient, proud. Thunder boomed as a bolt struck its peak. The tower cracked. Aria barely had time to run. Stone shattered. Flames roared. The tower fell in on itself, dragging statues and symbols into ruin. Beneath the rubble, a single glowing seed rested in the earth. Aria picked it up. A voice echoed through the silence. Destruction clears the way for truth. Card. The star. Smoke faded. Above, the stars emerged, unfiltered, infinite. Aria stood at a crystalline lake. A woman knelt at its edge, pouring water from two urns, one into the lake, one onto the ground. She looked up with eyes of soft radiance. You're still here, she said, smiling. That's enough. Aria knelt beside her, dipping her fingers in the lake. The reflection showed not a warrior or a prophet, but a woman with eyes wide open. She exhaled. The stars above shimmered and rearranged, forming a seven-pointed compass. Hope, said the woman, is what remains when all else falls away. Aria pressed the glowing seed into the earth. A new tree sprouted, crowned with starlight. Aria rose. In her satchel, a chalice of balance, a melted chain, a fallen brick, and a starseed. Vesper was waiting. "You've faced pleasure, ruin, and grace," he said. "I'm still standing," she whispered. "For now," he said, eyes kind. "But two gates remain, the shadow of the moon and the rising sun." Chapter 15. The Final Gate. Mist curled around Aria's boots as she stepped into the penultimate chamber. A pale light shimmered overhead, but it was not the comforting glow of stars. It was shifting, elusive, casting twin shadows at once. Card. The moon. Two creatures stood on opposite shores of a black lake, a wolf and a dog, both howling. In the center, a silver path wound through the waters toward a gate framed by twin towers. She took a step forward. The surface rippled. Her reflection looked back, but its eyes were hollow. It grinned, then vanished. Visions swirled around her, her failures, her doubts, the moment she nearly quit the tarot deck altogether, her grandmother's coffin, an unfinished painting. None of it was real, she whispered. Or all of it was, came Vesper's voice, distorted, distant. She breathed slowly. One step, another. Illusions rose and fell like tides. When she reached the shore, the wolf and dog bowed. The towers shimmered and faded. The path was hers. Card, the sun. Light burst around her like a song. She stepped into a field bathed in radiant gold. A white horse pranced beneath a brilliant sun, and a child laughed upon its back, arms open to the sky. Flowers bloomed underfoot. Aria knelt and touched one. It bloomed brighter. She remembered laughter, a birthday, her grandmother's warm voice telling a story on a rainy day, the sun on her face through the window of the studio. "You made it," said a voice. Vesper stood beside her, haloed in light. "This is the card of joy, of truth." "I remember who I am," Aria said. He smiled. "Then you're ready." Card. Judgment. A trumpet sounded, not from the sky, but within her chest. Everything fell away. She was standing in a chamber of white marble, filled with light. Statues rose from the ground, figures she had met, the Queen of Cups, the Knight of Swords, the Fool, the Devil, even the moon's reflection. They opened their eyes. Each raised a hand. "You've seen us all," said the Fool. "You've listened," said the Hermit. "You've acted," said the King of Wands. "You've loved," said the Queen of Cups. "You've chosen," said Vesper. The statues glowed. A portal opened above. A circular gate formed of every symbol: wand, cup, sword, pentacle, and 22 radiant arcana. Aria looked up. Card, the world. She stepped through, and she was everywhere. Every card, every gate, every moment. She saw herself with brush in hand, painting. She saw her grandmother holding her as a child. She saw the fool's cliff, the devil's chains, the sun's joy, all part of the same eternal circle. The totem she had gathered, wand, cup, sword, pentacle, floated around her. They merged. The circle spun. From within her chest bloomed a final gate, radiant and whole. It needed no number, no name. It was completion. She held the cards to her heart. Maybe one day, someone else would walk the gates. Aria opened her eyes. She was back in the cottage. The tarot deck rested in her lap, glowing softly. Her canvas stood blank no longer. Colors danced. The image was emerging. A wheel, a tree, a star, a woman standing in every gate. A knock at the door. A friend, an offer, a new journey. Epilogue. The 79th gift. Years had passed. The cottage still stood, nestled beneath whispering birch trees, its windows laced with crystals and old dream catchers. Paintings lined the walls, bursts of color, symbols, stars, and 78 gates made visible in brushstrokes. At the kitchen table sat Aria, older now, wiser, a silver streak in her hair, but the same spark in her eyes. Across from her sat her daughter Sage, 17 and restless. Ink-black curls framed a face carved with defiance and doubt. Her hoodie sleeves were pulled over her hands, fingers tapping the table with quiet agitation. Aria placed a velvet-wrapped bundle in front of her. "I know things have felt heavy lately," Aria said gently, "like no one sees you, like nothing makes sense." Sage's fingers paused. She glanced up, guarded but curious. Aria unwrapped the deck, edges worn soft by years, symbols glowing faintly beneath the light, cups, swords, stars, and fire. "This deck helped me find myself when I was lost," Aria said. "Each card opened a gate, and behind every gate was a trial, a truth I needed. It won't give you all the answers, but it will ask the right questions." Sage eyed the cards, suspicion flickering behind her eyes. "Is it real?" "As real as pain, as real as healing." Sage reached out and took the deck. Something shimmered, soft violet light pulsing from the cards, as if sensing a new soul, a new path. "What if I mess it up?" she asked. Aria smiled. "Then you'll learn. That's what the gates are for." Outside, a storm gathered in the distant sky. Inside, another journey was beginning. The fool waited once more, and the gates had opened again. The end, or the beginning.